The road stretched out like a ribbon through the West Virginia night. A pale mist drifted across the fields, settling low and heavy. It was November 15th, 1966, the kind of night where the world seemed to hold its breath. In the car, laughter echoed. Roger and Linda Scarberry sat in the front, their friends Steve and Mary Millette in the back. The Chevy rattled along the cracked road, radio humming softly with a rock and roll tune. Windows cracked just enough to let in the chill. They were young, free, and alive, until the night turned. Ahead, the headlights caught something. No, someone. A figure standing by the road. Linda gasped. The laughter died. It was tall, impossibly tall. 7 feet, maybe more. Its body was broad, human-shaped, but wrong. And its eyes, two glowing, burning red orbs, locked on theirs. Wings folded tight, stretched from its back like a cloak. For one heartbeat, the four froze. The car slowed. The night felt heavier. Then the figure moved. With a sudden, terrifying grace, it unfurled its wings. They spanned wider than the car itself. And then it lifted silently, powerfully, into the air. Roger cursed and slammed his foot down on the gas. The Chevy roared, tires squealing on wet asphalt. But the thing kept pace. It didn't flap its wings. It didn't struggle against the air. It glided effortlessly, keeping even with the car as if mocking their escape. Linda screamed, "Roger! Faster!" 60 miles an hour. 70. 90. The car shook. The speedometer needle trembled at 100. Still, it was there. Those eyes, burning, unblinking, fixed. Finally, the car crossed into town. Streetlights broke the darkness. The figure veered off into the trees. And the couples, pale and trembling, didn't drive home. They drove straight to the Mason County Courthouse. Inside, Sheriff George Johnson listened as they poured out their story. A man with wings, red eyes, chasing their car. Johnson studied their faces. He knew these kids. They weren't liars. They weren't jokers. Their fear was real. But what had they seen? The sheriff sent deputies to investigate. They combed the TNT area, the abandoned World War II munitions factory where the couple swore it emerged. They found nothing. Only silent bunkers, rusting steel, and the cold breath of winter. But the story spread. And within days, Point Pleasant would no longer be a quiet riverside town. Because more people would see it. Many more. And what they saw would haunt them forever. Point Pleasant was the kind of place where time felt slow. Families had lived there for generations. Church bells rang on Sundays. Children rode bikes by the Ohio River. But the TNT factory outside town was different. Built during World War II to produce explosives, it was now a decaying ruin. Concrete igloos covered in vines, tunnels that led nowhere, and pools of black water that never dried. Locals called it eerie. Hunters avoided it. Kids dared each other to sneak in. It was here that the Scarberrys and Millettes swore they saw the creature. Word spread quickly. Within days, others came forward. 2 volunteer firefighters reported seeing a huge bird-like figure with red eyes flying above the TNT area. A contractor driving along Route 62 swore it swooped in front of his truck, nearly causing him to crash. And then there was the story of Marcella Bennett. Marcella was visiting friends near the TNT plant when she stepped outside carrying her infant daughter. The air was cool, the grass wet with dew, and then she froze. There, by the parked cars, stood the figure. Its head turned slowly, eyes glowing red. Marcella clutched her baby to her chest and stumbled back inside, heart racing, breath shallow. She would later say, "I felt like it wanted to take my baby. I'll never forget those eyes." In town, whispers grew. Some said it was a giant bird. Others whispered it was something supernatural, a demon, an omen. Sheriff Johnson gave cautious statements to the press. He admitted the witnesses were reliable, but he didn't know what to make of it. The newspapers picked up the story. Headlines spoke of the Mothman, a name borrowed from the Batman villain, meant as a joke, but it stuck. Soon, Point Pleasant was known not for its quiet riverfront, but for a monster. And as sightings grew, so did fear. Was it real or hysteria? The town didn't know yet, but they would. Because Point Pleasant wasn't just facing a creature. It was facing a prophecy. Fear turned into obsession. Night after night, people drove to the TNT area hoping to catch a glimpse. Some swore they saw it darting between trees. Others claimed to hear its wings beating the air. But the most chilling account came from a man named Newell Partridge. Partridge lived in a farmhouse on the edge of town. One November night, his television suddenly buzzed with static, the screen flickering violently. Then it went black. His dog, Bandit, growled low. The fur on its back stood on end. Partridge grabbed a flashlight and stepped outside. The night was silent. Too silent. He swept the beam across the field. And then two eyes, red, burning, alive. They glowed in the dark, fixed on him. Bandit bolted. The dog tore across the field, barking furiously. Partridge shouted, but the dog didn't stop. The eyes blinked once, and both were gone. Bandit never came home. Partridge searched for days, but the dog was never found. He would later choke back tears, saying, "I know what I saw, and I know it took my dog." Stories like this spread through Point Pleasant. But something else spread too: paranoia. Strange men began visiting witnesses. Dressed in black suits, they asked odd questions about the creature. Some spoke in robotic, halting tones. Others seemed not to understand basic human behavior. One woman recalled, "They told me not to speak of what I'd seen. Their skin was pale. Their eyes strange. They weren't right. They weren't normal. Who were they? Government agents? Something else entirely?" Now the town wasn't just haunted by a winged monster. It was stalked by men in black. And all of it, the glowing eyes, the static-filled phone calls, the pale men knocking at doors, felt like pieces of a puzzle leading to something darker, something inevitable, and that something was death. December 15th, 1967. The day was cold. Ice floated on the Ohio River. The Silver Bridge, a steel suspension bridge connecting Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio, groaned under the weight of holiday traffic. Cars lined bumper to bumper. Families shopping for Christmas, workers heading home, children laughing in the back seats. At 5:04 p.m. it happened. An eye-bar joint, a single piece of steel, cracked. The sound was like a gunshot. Metal screamed as the bridge shuddered. Bolts snapped. Cables whipped free. Then the entire structure twisted, buckled, and collapsed. Cars dropped like stones into the freezing water. Some were crushed instantly. Others sank slowly, passengers pounding on windows, screaming as the Ohio swallowed them whole. On the shore, witnesses screamed in horror. Emergency crews rushed in. Firefighters waded into icy currents, pulling survivors from twisted metal. Divers plunged into the dark water, bringing up bodies one by one. By the end, 46 people were dead. Parents, children, couples, friends. The tragedy shattered Point Pleasant. But in the days before the collapse, dozens swore they had seen the Mothman. Some claimed it perched on the bridge, eyes glowing, watching. Had it come to warn them, or had it come to feed on their fear? That night, the creature disappeared. No more sightings, no more red eyes, as if the bridge was the prophecy's final chapter. But the scars on Point Pleasant would never heal. Enter John Keel, a journalist obsessed with the unexplained. Keel arrived in Point Pleasant at the height of the sightings. He interviewed hundreds of people, witnesses, police, housewives, children. The stories painted a chilling picture. Glowing lights in the sky, telephones ringing endlessly with static-filled voices, men in black knocking at doors, dreams of disasters that came true. Keel himself experienced it. His phone rang at night with voices that mimicked friends, except those friends had never called. One woman confided, "I dreamed of children drowning. The next day, the bridge fell." In 1975, Keel published the Mothman Prophecies. His conclusion was haunting. The Mothman wasn't a monster. It was a messenger, a harbinger of disaster. And the Silver Bridge was proof. But the sightings didn't stop with Point Pleasant. Ukraine, 1986. Workers near Chernobyl reported seeing a winged creature days before the reactor exploded. New York, 2001. Whispers claimed shadows with wings circled the towers before September 11th. Mexico, 2009, miners swore they saw a winged man before a deadly collapse. Was it all coincidence? Or was it prophecy? For Point Pleasant, the Mothman wasn't a legend. It was grief. 46 funerals. 46 graves. Families torn apart. On the night of the collapse, mothers screamed by the riverbank, begging for answers. Fathers waded into icy water, clawing at car doors. Children cried for parents who would never return. And for the witnesses, ridicule added to the pain. Linda Scarberry admitted, "I wish I'd never seen it. It ruined my life. People laughed. They called us crazy. But we knew what we saw. The trauma cut deep. Grief, ridicule, fear. But the town rebuilt. And over time, they embraced the legend. Today, Point Pleasant hosts an annual Mothman Festival. A statue of the creature towers downtown. Wings spread, eyes of steel glaring. Some see it as a guardian, others as a curse. But no one forgets. Scientists insist the Mothman was a bird. A sandhill crane, tall and strange, its eyes reflecting red in headlights. Psychologists say it was hysteria. Fear spreading like a virus, making people see what wasn't there. But believers argue otherwise. Too many witnesses, too many details alike. How could so many see the same thing? And why did the sightings stop the moment the bridge collapsed? Coincidence? Or proof? The Mothman didn't stay in West Virginia. Chicago, 2017. Dozens reported a winged figure over O'Hare Airport. Police filed reports. Witnesses swore its eyes glowed red. Mexico, 2009. Miners described a winged shadow before a deadly cave-in. Survivors called it the Mothman. Chernobyl, 1986. Workers saw a black bird above the plant. Days later, the meltdown occurred. Around the world, the same story. Sightings before tragedy. If the Mothman is real, is it a warning or a curse? The Silver Bridge collapse ended one chapter but began another. Books, films, and stories keep the Mothman alive. But the truth remains elusive. Was it a demon sent to torment? An angel sent to warn? Or something else entirely? Maybe it's none of these. Maybe it's all of them. But the legend endures because it touches our deepest fear, the unknown. And perhaps even now, somewhere in the dark, it waits. The Mothman Prophecies remain one of the most chilling mysteries in modern history. A town stalked by a winged figure, a bridge torn into the river, 46 lives lost, and a creature that vanished without a trace. So what do you believe? Was the Mothman real? Or was it the shadow of human fear? Leave your theory in the comments because someone out there knows the truth. And if you've made it this far, subscribe. Stories like this deserve more eyes, more voices, and more justice. Until next time, keep watching the skies.